He's winning. Check it out. I want to go first to the Polymarket poll, which shows him way up here. Take a look. Again, this is a new all-time high, the highest I've seen, 60.1% chance of winning the Oval Office, winning the Electoral College, right? Because it's different. They're not anticipating that he's going to win the popular vote. They're anticipating that he will win the Electoral College because, you know, that little thing called the Electoral College actually really does matter because it gives lots of other states outside of New York, California, and Texas, a little bit of say in things. I mean, consider New Hampshire, 4 electoral votes. Nobody would pay any attention to New Hampshire if it weren't for those 4 electoral votes. So the Electoral College is pretty darn important, even if the left does not believe it to be so. Let me go to the NPR poll, which, oh gosh, this must just kill him to have to write this over at NPR. Swing state map. Polls move in Trump's direction, but the race remains tight. So in other words, they're giving themselves some little tiny bit of hope right there. The race remains tight. Here's the colored map you can see with Donald Trump right now looking at 246 to Harris's 226, 270, of course, being the number needed, the magic number needed to win. And they're looking at some of these states and they're suggesting, I mean, this is surprising to me, over at NPR, they're compiling some data from 538, which is part of ABC News. It was formerly owned by and started by Nate Silver, who now has Silver Bulletin. We'll go to some of his data as well. But what they're suggesting there is that Florida, for example, is not firmly in the red. I might beg to differ with that one. They're saying that Georgia, of course, is up for grabs. Arizona, they think Texas is pretty darn pink. But the toss-up places are North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada. So there's been more data out recently that suggests, including the Fox News poll, Michigan is going the way of Donald Trump. The Polymarket prediction market showing you, by the way, Polymarket, I should point out, is a sponsor of the Trish Regan show. So we thank them for that. But I'll tell you, we'd be covering this anyway. Don't let them know that. Anyway, here we go. Round it out. These are the averages. Swing states, Trump up 0.34% in the NPR poll map. Overall in these toss-ups like Pennsylvania, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia's leaning red, Arizona's leaning red. I think, you might be surprised. I think Polymarket does have it right. You're going to have a really big red sweep of the country. And now I live in one of those blue states up in the Northeast. So, I get a different vibe here, but I think it's important to keep one's ear to the ground and kind of be aware of all sides. One of the things that Nate Silver is pointing out in his Silver Bulletin is that we're not there yet. So while Polymarket may be reflecting a 60.1% chance of Donald Trump winning, Nate is still kind of on the margin. Before the debate, his polling and his sort of financial model that he uses, I call it a financial model. It's really just all these different polls plus a bunch of data points that he puts in. His model was suggesting that Donald Trump was going to win. And then we had the debate, and then all of a sudden the model fell apart, and you had Kamala Harris in the lead, and she's maintaining that lead. And I point that out because, look, I think that you got to be cautious. You got to be very aware. Yes, there were some hurricanes that displaced a lot of people in North Carolina and Florida. So I don't know if everybody that maybe wanted to vote is going to get to vote. And if you listen to David Axelrod, his presumption, former campaign manager for Barack Obama, his presumption is that those are people that are very much on the right. So those are the Trump voters that may not be able to get out to vote. So that's discouraging. But I still keep going back to, you're putting money on the line here with the prediction market. Polymarket investors, so to speak, and by the way, you can't actually make a wager unless you're in a country that allows that, which the U.S. does not. So just keep that in mind. You can go check it, though. You can go check it 24/7 anytime you want. I think it's an important indicator overall, because all of these polls are interesting, but they are really, really close. Trump, 47% to 46% in a three-way race. This is just coming out this week from NBC News. And I keep saying, you know what? It goes back to this. It goes back to this inflation chart. If you're watching the show, you can see it above my left-hand shoulder. If you're listening, thank you for that on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Make sure you give us 5 stars. Give us a nice little note there. We appreciate you listening to the audio version of the podcast. We are live here every single day on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell so you know when I'm here. But taking a look at this, okay, energy, Harris Biden, 34.4%. That's how much more it has gone up. You see people are shelling out that much more money, 34%. Are you making 34% more? I doubt it, right? Because wages have not kept up with inflation. And so this is why you see something like the Poly market chart showing a 60.1% chance of Donald Trump winning. I want to point out, and this is very interesting, over on Bloomberg television, Stan Druckenmiller, who's a really famous hedge fund guy and very smart, very good at his job, came out and said he thinks this is baked in. The market is anticipating a Trump win, which would probably explain why Bitcoin's going through the roof. We've been talking about that on 76 Research. If you're not following the 76 Research channel, do me that favor, go and follow it right now on YouTube, because we're going to be over there. I'm going to be over there with Rob talking about the markets and politics as it relates to the markets and as it relates to your money coming up. I will also try and can I type that in the chat? I think I can. I'll try and put that in the chat here for you so that you know just exactly how to think about all of this right now. Because listen, the market is baking it in. Druckenmiller said it. I believe him. Again, I have only to look at Bitcoin. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, the numbers are there. The NBC News poll is reflecting it. The Fox poll is reflecting all the NPR data that they have accumulated, and it's leaving Kamala Harris in really kind of a bad spot. She's really, really freaked out enough that she's going to go on with Bret Baier on Fox News.